Last fall, my kids heard that my local quilt guild was hosting a quilt show, and they both wanted to enter a quilt into the show. I told them that in order to do that, they needed to piece their own quilts. So they asked me to help them make a patchwork quilt. Hi, I'm Julie Patterson of JCT Quilting, and I want to help you turn your memories into quilted treasures. In this video, I'll show you how I help my kids sew their first patchwork quilt, and along the way, I'll share some tips and strategies for how to help a kid sew a quilt. If you have the opportunity, help your child feel more connected to the quilt by allowing them to pick out their fabric. For my son, that meant that we went to the fabric store. He picked out his backing fabric, and then he picked out yardage and fat quarters that he wanted to use on the quilt top. I'll be honest, it was hard to not interject with my thoughts and my ideas of how much of each fabric or what fabrics we should buy, but in the end, I'm glad he got to pick what he wanted.
Let's put it in a stack pile.
Do you like that one?
It's like the same.
Oh, they have a lot of those.
Yeah, but just get them all.
These are all the fabrics that we use.
We decided to make a patchwork quilt with 10-inch squares. I cut my son's fabric selections into 10-inch squares. We sorted them by fabric and by color, and then he told me where to put each square to lay out the quilt top. Again, it was hard for me to not interject. I really wanted to mix up these fabrics and do a blend of the orange and blue, but it's his quilt, so I let him decide. For my daughter's quilt, we also did a patchwork quilt with 10-inch squares, but she was able to pick her fabric from layer cakes that I had in my stash. She picked out which fabric she wanted from each layer cake, and then I let her take the lead on the layout for the quilt top. She did ask some questions and ask for advice, so I gave it, but I let her make the final decision on the layout. With the fabrics laid out, it's now time to sew the quilt top. If you haven't done it yet, this is a good time to teach your kids about sewing safety. I've had numerous conversations with my kids about where to put their hands, where to put their feet, and what to be careful of. Now it's time to chain piece the quilt top. Is your foot pedal in a good spot? Okay, we have our sewing machine.
Now,
We have our tape that we're going to use as our sewing line so that we butt our fabric up against it. And we used a few pieces of tape so that it's actually got some thickness to it so you can feel when the fabric comes up against it. And we're using clips because those will be easier to remove and we don't have to worry about you poking your fingers. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
You ready to go?
Wait, do I?
Yes, after you get the fabric underneath it.
Wait, right.
So, yep, can you feel that fabric butt up against that? Yep. And I'll even move this down a little bit. So feel it, and then, yep, you can lower the foot.
It just looked.
Okay. And then do you want the stitch on fast, medium, slow?
I think I'll do medium.
Okay, remember you also control the speed with your foot, okay? So if you press harder, it's gonna go faster. If you press lighter, it's gonna go slower. Or you can use that to help you. That's fine too. Okay, and we're just gonna try and keep the fabric along this edge. And when this part of the foot gets close to this, we take this off. Sound good?
So like the whole clip.
So as we sew, this will move up, and when this clip gets close to this foot, we'll stop, we'll take the clip off, and then we'll keep going.
Can I go?
Yes. Okay, stop. If you need to stop, there you go.
Take the clip.
You can take the clip off, and then kind of check your alignment. How's your fabric doing up against this tape? Is it good? Is it good? Good. Okay. You can go. When sewing with kids or beginner sewers, it's helpful to pack your patient. The slower sewing speed is hard for me to watch and be a part of, but I also know that it's very beneficial for him as he's learning and trying to figure out where his hands and his feet go. And it did allow me an opportunity to help him with alignment without the fabric going too fast under the needle. While he's sewing, I'm providing encouragement. I'm reminding him of how to put his hands. I'm reminding him of where to line the fabric. and I'm allowing him to take breaks as needed. We decided to chain piece our blocks, so we immediately went into sewing the next 2 pieces together. I continue to provide encouragement and reminders and help him with the alignment. What's next?
I'm not gonna say it.
Okay, so we sewed all the pairs together. So now we've clipped column 2 to column 3, right? And so now we're gonna sew column 2 to column 3. It's still clipped together, right? These are not, it's still sewn together for the chain piecing. They're not clipped. So we're gonna sew all 7 of the column 2 to column 3, and then we'll sew column 4 to 5. Okay? I helped him figure out which fabric piece to sew on next while continuing to let him take the lead on the actual sewing. So this is where we are. Now we're going to sew our rows together. When sewing the rows together, we tried to match seams, but it didn't always work out, and that's okay. The goal here is to learn how to sew and to have fun.
Like and subscribe.
What else do you want to say?
And also, this is the quilt that we made. And it's going to the quilt show. Oh, so, yeah.
I followed the same process when helping my daughter make her quilt. I provided encouragement. I reminded her of how to help the fabric go through the machine, where to put hands, how to watch the alignment, when to remove clips. Remember, each kid is different. With my daughter, she needed more support and encouragement and moral support. My son needed more help with the alignment. And here's her finished quilt top. I did the quilting and attached the binding for each quilt myself. My kids were kind of done with the quilts at this point, so I said I would finish them for them. My local quilt guild put on a quilt show, and each kid was able to enter their quilt into the show, and they won honorary ribbons. Each kid was proud of the quilt that they had made, but I think seeing their quilts hanging at the show with all the other quilts provided them with immense pride and joy.
Thanks for watching our video. Bye!